Hello, this is Paola. I hope you are well and I hope you are awakening to your true self more and more and more. We never stop growing and expanding more and more into the truth that we are. And today, I just wanted to share with you a reflection and an activation about being, just being, about us being human beings and not human doings. You might have heard this sentence many times, and yet let's go a little bit deeper, because it's true, our value does not depend on the things that we do. Our value is unconditional, and yet this society tells you that you're valuable if you are productive. Productivity, as if it was a good thing. Or, you might have heard many times people saying to another person, oh, you work so hard, as if it was a good thing, or saying to themselves, oh, I've worked so hard, I deserve this. Like valuing the working hard and putting it up there as if it was a good thing. So let's question that. What if our value is unconditional, was unconditional? Unconditional. In the same way we recognize the value of, for example, a newborn baby. They know they are valuable not because they are being productive or they are contributing to society, but because they are born. And the reason why we are able to see that is because they are innocent. So we are seeing them with the eyes of love, not through the lenses of the ego, which gets activated when we don't feel safe. But in the presence of an innocent newborn baby, we feel safe, so we're able to activate our true knowledge, our true knowing, which comes from the third eye, the awakened third eye. In other words, we see reality with the eyes of love, which are the eyes of the truth. And we recognize that a human being is unconditionally valuable. And yet somehow we lose track of that throughout life, maybe because we are conditioned by this society that constantly reminds you of the value of productivity, of the doing, as if it was an important thing. And I want to invite you to consider this. It comes from my own personal experience. Very often in the past, I find myself kind of split in two. There was a part of me that was the doing, let's say the more masculine, the doing, and there was a part of me that recognized that that's not all that I am, the more feminine, the being, the one that is okay, just being and receiving. And yet I felt a split between these two, especially when I was finding myself in the hyper-masculine. This part of me just took over and it became separate from the being, so that I was really into the productivity mode, not really being anchored into my being. So I was doing for the sake of doing, and for the sake of showing myself and others that I could do it, and therefore that I was good enough. You see, that part of us that wants to be productive at all cost is separate from the center, and therefore from the knowing of our unconditional value. If we know who we truly are, and we see ourselves with the eyes of love, in the same way we see a newborn baby, then we recognize that we are human beings, and we allow the doing to really come from the being. We heal that separation between doing masculine and being feminine, and we come into the oneness. If we tap into, for example, nature or the universe, or if you would like God or the divine, we can feel that there is a being, a life force energy, but this life force energy constantly does, creates. But we know that that doing, that creation, is just a natural consequence of the being. This grass is growing constantly, there is plenty of activity, but it emerges from the being of nature itself, of the universe, of the divine. And we are part of this immense being. We are part, there is this life force energy that goes through us and is expressed through us. In that way, then we can anchor ourselves into the being that we are as a perfect expression of this life force energy, and allowing that expression to naturally, come from the being. In this way, we really heal that separation between being and doing, and we find the oneness in it, and we allow the doing to be an expression of the being. We don't force it, we don't separate it, we don't compartmentalize it. We know that we are one, and in this being, we can tap into the oneness that we are and allow our center to then guide us. How do I want to express myself? How does my being want to express itself today? And then that doing becomes a beautiful expression of that, which is very different from having your life guided by the to-do list. That little satisfaction that you get when you kind of tick things off your list. That is more like living in separation. That is more like coming from that masculine doing thing that assigns value to productivity and doing, even if that is totally disconnected from your being. Even if you find yourself doing things you don't really love, or you would rather not do, but at least you have the consolation that you're marking things off your list. So you can feel the difference. So I invite you to consider the possibility that everything you do can be a natural expression of you as this beautiful creative being that you are. So, I invite you to truly practice this. I remember myself, I created a little stick that I decorated with some ribbons, and that for me represented the willingness to do things only out of the joy that I am, the being that I am. I had to make it into a practice because I was super unbalanced in my masculine. My masculine was taking over and was separating itself from the center. So I invite you to do something like that. Maybe create an object for yourself, or take something from nature that reminds you of the being of nature. It can be anything. It can be a stone. And put it somewhere you can see it. Decorate it maybe to remind you to do things only out of the being essence that you are. Let me know how you get on with this practice. Please leave a comment below, like this video. And if you have questions, feel free to ask me so we can have a beautiful conversation about that and see how you get on. Sending you lots of love.